Okay, so this is by request a sort of basic fingerpicking lesson video. There's a lot of styles of fingerpicking guitar, so I'm just going to talk about an approach to. I'm going to talk about two ones that I sometimes think of it as like the John and the Paul. I don't know if you guys know the Beatles' White Album. It's a cool album you should check out. And there's a lot of fingerpick guitar songs on there, and most of John's, like Dear Prudence or whatever, and like Julia, they're like in that style. And then Paul's like Blackbird and Mother Nature's Son. They're kind of like in that thumb and then strummy index finger style. So anyway, let's talk about the John style first, which is also like sort of what people call Travis picking. It's mostly what people mean usually when they say finger picking. And it's just this style usually where you have the thumb doing a regular beat kind of pattern, and then some of your other fingers playing either in a regular pattern or some kind of irregular pattern along with the thumb. Okay, so let's start by talking about the thumb. The thumb, like I said, is sort of keeping the beat, right? So let's try this with a G chord. So you could either do your whole G chord, or you could just put your third finger, for instance, on the third fret of the low E. And then have your thumb go 6, 4, E string, D string. And hopefully this is, you have a way of doing this. It's like just pluck through the string. And the thumb is really important in these kind of finger picking patterns. It's the thumb staying on beat like that is like what makes the whole rest of the pattern work. So you want to make sure that you can do this. The thumb is usually, there are finger picking patterns where the thumb is just thumping on one string, but in a lot of times the thumb is doing some kind of alternating thing. So for instance, on a G chord, going between the third fret on the low E and the D string. So spend as long as you need to getting comfortable with that. So now let's do our index. Now there's styles where you just use your index, or your index and your middle, or your middle and your ring. Let's do index and middle. And what you're going to do is imagine that your index finger sort of has to play the G string. They're attached to each other. And your middle finger sort of has to play the B string. They're sort of buddies. So you kind of can set them up like this. And now obviously the thumb was plucking this way. These are going to pluck this way. So first just try that. Make sure that you sort of have some people play with nails, I don't have nails, I have short nails, but so I'm sort of using the meat of the finger and just going, plucking the G, plucking the B. So make sure you can do that. Now what you're going to try to do is alternating index and middle, and always in between the thumbs. So it's going to go like thumb, index, thumb, middle. That's the pattern. And just do that. As long as you need to get comfortable with that. And that's a pattern that gets used a lot, and there's lots of songs that just go like that. But there's also a lot of times where you want your index and middle to have a little more independence from the thumb. So they more are sort of doing their own thing, and it's not just a pattern that goes around like that. So to try to get into that, there's a lot of ways you could, but try this. Do a pattern like we were just doing, but instead of doing it every time, do it every other time. So then it's like this. Thumb, 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 index, thumb, middle. Thumb, 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 index, thumb, middle. Thumb, thumb. You can even mix it up by doing stuff like this. Whatever that is. So now another thing. The index and middle don't always have to be not with the thumb. Sometimes they can be with the thumb. So you could try a pattern like this. On your first thumb, play your middle. And then thumb, index, thumb, middle. So that would be. So you see that? Thumb and middle together. Then thumb, then index, then thumb, then middle. Then thumb. Thumb and middle, thumb, index, thumb, middle, thumb, mix that up with the other pattern. So it can become. And then eventually your index and middle can maybe sort of do whatever they want to do. And you want to be able to do index, middle, and middle index. So whatever pattern you practice. So if you practice, also practice, you see what I mean? So anyway, so that kind of thing. So now maybe you want to try another chord. Now one of the things that's going to happen is for some other chords, what your thumb does is going to change if the low note of that chord is different. So for instance, when you play a C chord, the low note of a C chord, the bass note is on the A string. So now maybe your thumb is going to go A, D, but you can do all the same patterns. Now you could eventually maybe try to switch between those two. So I'm going to go G, C. Now, there's a ton of other stuff you can get into, but that's like a very basic overview of that style. Okay, and then now let's look real quick at what I was calling the Paul style. So, which isn't like one style, but just a general thing of using your thumb and index especially to sort of pick strum. So you could try something like this, put your G chord down and do like thumb plucking the low string and then index strumming either this way, or both. So it could go, it's like a 3 kind of pattern, 1, 2, 3. You know, you could do something like this. This is obviously a lot more like strumming, but you're using your fingers, right? You're whatever it is. So the point being that your thumb is going to hit the low strings, maybe just the low note, maybe more of a strum on the low strings, and your index is going to play the high strings, and maybe it's just going to play them once, maybe it's going to do a little strumming pattern like you would do for any strumming pattern, you know? Something like that. That is a very quick, very general overview of these styles, but hopefully that's helpful and maybe gives you some ideas of where to start if you're trying to learn a song that you think is in one of these styles. And let me know if you have any questions or ideas for more helpful things in this realm. All right, thank you for watching.